it's funny because LSU started this game in the wrong way, Jake. Like, this may have gotten buried in your brain under the 6 touchdown drives in a row, under the deep balls, under a Jayden Daniels statistical output that is overwhelming, frankly. It's like when I got on Whiskey and Wine and actually, because I rarely look at the numbers before Whiskey and Wine, I'm just going off pure like game feel.
Mm-hmm.
I was even shocked to see and remember just how exorbitant Daniels' numbers were this game. Absurd. But what may have gotten buried and all that good over the next 3.5 hours, Jake, was LSU started this game awfully. I mean, you come out, kick off, you give up the big return, everybody's throwing their hands up again, special teams sucks, what the hell are we doing? Next thing you know, Anthony Richardson bombs one over the top, and at that point, you're like, okay, we suck. It is what it is. You're in the swamp. Danny, how was that place going crazy after that deep touchdown to start the game?
Oh, yeah. It was going wild.
And what's funny is it's exactly what we talked about on Friday, Jake. How was this team going to respond when in that building there was a haymaker landed and it felt like the entire world was working against you? And I think you brought up the fact that, well, we've seen this team respond this year, and they've actually responded pretty well. And that bore true once again as LSU comes out, and what do? They immediately start a run of 6 straight touchdown drives. They ate that haymaker to the chin, and then like that old movie trope where you think you land a good shot and the guy just kind of laughs and shrugs it off.
Right.
Like maybe a little blood's at the corner of your mouth and you just kind of wipe it away and smile. That's basically what LSU did, and Jayden Daniels came out swinging. And Jayden Daniels took this game over, Jake.
It's a resilient group. There's no question about that. I mean, just the way they've gotten down. And you could certainly say, well, hey, you don't have to be resilient if you actually just started the game fast. But, look, I think we have enough sample size to figure out, like, this is just kind of what it is. They're slow starters and they're great finishers. Sometimes the finish doesn't even get you a win, but we have seen that over the course of the season.
Sure.
And I'm sitting there watching the game, and from the opening kickoff, almost a 50-yard return, I'm just yelling. I am yelling things at the TV because we'll get to it, but that has to get fixed. That is just I can't even like tell you what that does to me to watch special teams be so poor, but we'll certainly get to that. But then
you made your living, dude.
Like they come up there and they hit a shot to Justin Shorter, who really outside of playing against you, he hasn't made many plays in college football. It's like he saves his best for LSU, but then you go on a 12-play, 75-yard drive.
12 plays.
So this team, look, there is certainly some faults in this team, but they do not blink. Like no situation looks like it rattles them so much where they can't get back into it. And look, I realize how the Tennessee game went, and Tennessee just might very well be a top 3 team in the country, right? So outside of that, like you have found a way to really whatever the other team does, not blink, and then put together something for yourself. It's impressive.
Yeah, and speaking of not blinking, it all starts with Jayden Daniels in this game. And I don't know that I have ever seen a larger 2-week difference from where a quarterback was to where they were, to where they looked Saturday night. If you're talking about Jayden Daniels at Auburn, where he throws for 85 yards overall, I know he leaves the second half, but you have 5 passing yards the entirety of the second half. And then to come out 2 weeks later and put up the numbers that he did, 349 through the air, 44 yards on the ground, 6 touchdowns, 3 on the ground, 3 through the air. More than that, Jake, it's not just two things I love about Daniels here. This performance doesn't just come in a vacuum against a team that doesn't matter. It comes at a time, Jake, when we are ready to write him off, right? Like I was very clear about this last week, that while I certainly believed at the beginning of this season that Daniels with this team was the best path to winning, I was very upfront about, look, man, but we got to follow what the information is telling us. And after 2 poor weeks in a row, I was not there anymore. I was like, this is going to be a bit of a make or break game. If he goes out there and struggles again, I think you have to start to explore some other options if you lose. And so with all that narrative hanging over his head, he was at his best. And that's kind of the macro. When you zoom in on the game itself, the micro, when the pressure was highest, which is something he continues to be great at, Jake, he was at his best. His numbers on third down, are you kidding me? He ends up going 8 of 9 for 173 and 6 conversions on third down alone. And one he did not convert. They got it to a 4th and 1, which they ended up converting. So the team overall finishes 8 of 12 and 2 of 2 on 4th down. But yeah, for Jayden Daniels to not just like the deep balls, which we'll break down. The Dre Jenkins one came with 2 minutes left in the first half on a 3rd and 8 from midfield. You had to have it. He stood tall in the pocket, got hit as he threw, touchdown. So the growth, the high pressure playmaking, and the ability to shoulder the burden of the narrative and the pressure that was on him and then produce a game like this. I mean, take a bow, JD5. This was your night.
Without question, it was. And he did the things that we were calling for, like, because he's got a skill set. There is no denying that he has a skill set, and we've seen flashes of it. But last week we were calling for, okay, let's put all that together, because we broke down, 2 or 3 plays here, and we're like, there's plays to be made.
Yeah.
If you go through the proper mechanics, you can make those plays. Well, I mean, tomorrow's more of our film day, but we'll play a couple of clips today. That's what he did. He stood tall in the pocket. He didn't leave a clean pocket, and you know what he did better than anything he did over the weekend? He trusted his receivers.
Yeah.
He trusted the dudes on the outside, because T-Bob and I were at SEC Media Day. The conversation was, does LSU have the best receiver room in the country, not just the LSU? Now, there's some fault to the LSU receivers as far as how this year has gone. It's certainly not all on Jayden Daniels, but they have a lot of really talented players, top-tier talented players in that room. And, he's like, you know what, Brian Thomas? I've seen you do this at practice time and time again.
Yeah.
It's one-on-one coverage. You're getting a jump ball. Kayshawn had, without question, his best game. Dre Jenkins, we've seen you make so many big plays before. You've got one-on-one coverage. I'm going to throw it to you and go get it. Malik Neighbor, time and time again in this game, he said, I'm going to trust my guy. It's one-on-one coverage. Yeah. Because, look, in college football, certainly, but it even plays in the NFL. If your player is better than the defensive back, well, it's not a 50-50 ball anymore, because my guy can go make the play. And also, you're expecting a college defensive back to panic, because they all panic.
Well, and, they create penalties.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. It's going to create a penalty,
yes.
Or he's going to panic and not be in the right position to make a play. There's so many things that are on the offensive side for you, right? There's very low chances that the defensive back is going to go make that play in one-on-one coverage, because of who you have on the outside, because of the panic, not just because of a penalty, but because being out of position, there's so many things that for you are going to be valuable if you just put it up into the air, or a place where your guy can go make a play.
Yeah, and okay, look, so it's so funny, Jake, because everything you just said is so opposite of how football used to be viewed 15 years ago. Whereas the old Les Miles quote, I don't think he made this up, but he used to always talk about it, where when you throw the ball, there's 3 things that can happen, and 2 of them are bad.
Yes.
Which is obviously we now know not to be true, but it was accepted as simple truth back then, right? Because it's either complete, it's incomplete, or it's a pick. Well, no, now we know there's penalties, all sorts of things. You make the defense be honest, whatever. Times have changed, and for this Saturday, LSU looked like they changed.
One thing, because you know me and running backs, and I got to shout them out. One thing is probably going to get lost, because Jayden Daniels deserves to be talked about. The day he had, there's only been one other LSU quarterback do that. That was Sir Joseph Burrow. So, he needs to have, the first full hour where we can talk about how he grew from what we broke down last week. But how about Josh Williams?
Yes.
14 carries, 106 yards. That counter run right out of the half for 50 yards was a thing of beauty. He was in there pass protecting his butt off all game long. Love it.
Did he get a game ball or something?
He did. He got the game ball.
Okay. That's what I was going to wonder.
Yeah, in the locker room, BK gave him the game ball after the game.
Which is, wild on a night where you have a quarterback that goes for 400 basically total yards and 6 touchdowns. But you know what? I think Jayden Daniels probably, you don't give out that game ball like that if you're BK, unless you know that Daniels would want it to go to him as well for the pass blocking and everything else. If you were at Don Juan on Saturday night, you may have seen me viciously assaulting Moscona with a flurry of punches, yelling, "That's a walk-on! That's a walk-on!" Since he always wants to bring up Josh Williams' old walk-on status.
Wait, he does?
Not as much anymore. Not it stopped. It stopped this year. It is
Oh
stopped.
my god!
But I like.
See,
I like
okay,
to, I
real
like to
quick,
mess with him.
real quick, and that doesn't surprise me, but real quick, like this is someone that had opportunities to go to college for free and play college football at other places. He has an injury his last year in high school. I believe it was an ACL, and so that's why he was a walk-on. He had offers, tears his ACL, isn't able to get, I don't know what they were, UTSA, UTEP, 2B, Power 5 schools his senior year. Again, didn't play. He bet on himself. That's why he walked on to LSU and earned a scholarship in 1 year.
Yeah.
T-Bob, you know how hard that is as a walk-on.
Yeah,
Even if
very
you're
tough.
a really good walk-on, it takes 3 years typically to earn a scholarship. He gets one in year one. So do the research, find out that he had offers to go play for free. He bet on himself saying, I can play at a place like LSU.
Yeah, and he has continued to kind of flourish this year. He is your RB1. Now it's not like a Chase Brown type of situation, right? This is
No.
still by committee, but he is he was fantastic. 14 carries, 106 yards. The 4th and 1 conversion at the end, where you knew who was getting the ball. Now, kind of okay. So I'll stick in the backfield then, Jake. Because also kind of lost in this game maybe a bit is John Emery. Had a nice performance, and he continues. How many touchdowns have for him now? 3? I think we maybe get up to 2 of them coming through the air here in recent weeks. And when you're talking about athleticism, Emery probably has the highest ceiling there. And seeing him line up at receiver in some of these empty sets, seeing him become a consistent receiving threat out of the backfield, I think is a very nice growth point for him and for this team as they look for weapons going forward.
Yeah, he's certainly a playmaker. We know that. And John Emery, somebody that couldn't play football for a year. We know that as well. And you're starting to see it process quicker for him. Because when you're out for a year, it doesn't matter how much football you've played in your life. Like, it's going to take some time. And he is a great, a little bit of a change of pace back for Josh Williams. Because Josh Williams, you know what you're going to get. Like, he's a reliable running back. But certainly John Emery in space can make special plays, and he's done that. And if you can create a nice little 1-2 punch, and then, depending on what you can get from Noah Cain and if Goodwin can come back, but that's a nice little 1-2 punch if you pick the right spots and don't fall into tendencies as well, because we've talked about that.
Yeah, so a couple nice performances there. And then we've probably gone too long here, being about 30 minutes in, without talking about Kayshon Boutte. He was made a captain for the game. That is a captainship that Brian Kelly later said after the game was purely because of how he practiced, that this week at practice he was just more locked in than he has been all season. He was just faster, bigger, stronger, better. And what he did do, Jake, while he didn't end up in the end zone, obviously 6 catches for 115 yards is great on a season where I don't think you barely had above 115 yards for the rest of the year combined. But kind of like some of the best parts about Jayden this game, it was the timeliness of these plays, the opening drive on these 3rd and longs when, again, everything was working against you, right? The long return, touchdown over top, you're facing 3rd and long immediately. It felt bleak at that moment. It felt like this was about to be incomplete, maybe like a sack or something, and then we're all going to be kind of throwing our hands up in the air and rolling our eyes. And that is when Kayshon Boutte entered the chat once again and asserted himself and looked good post-catch with the ball, which it felt like we hadn't seen in a while. So, look, this is a volatile LSU team, and it still remains to be seen how much of this you can carry forward, but I don't know when the last time that I saw a game was in which there were so many clear points of growth that arguably should be sustainable somewhat, right? Like Kayshon Boutte should continue to be able to get open and make plays against any defense. Jayden Daniels should be able to carry over the trust in his receivers that he displayed this game, even if it's not to the tune of like 350 and 3 touchdowns. Like, it doesn't have to be that exorbitant, but just some of these principles that you saw develop, you can carry forward. And who knows, maybe by the end of this thing, we're looking back at this game for Boutte and be like, okay, that's where he finally found himself once again.
The biggest thing that he can take from this game into the next game, into the next game, and for the rest of the season is exactly what T-Bob just said, the trust in his receivers.
Yeah.
I think that is the most important thing to carry over from this game until the rest of the season, because you have the playmakers out there. We've known it before the season. We've known it in the season, and now he fully knows it. He knows that he can put the ball in the right spot. I'm not just saying throw it up in a double coverage if they're playing two-man and you're like, hey, let me just take a shot. That's not what I'm saying.
No.
You take the shots that are given. If it's one-on-one coverage, you take that opportunity every single time, because you have the guys that have now shown you they'll go make a play for you. And certainly, look, if it's Brian Thomas, like, nobody's out jumping that guy.
And also,
not one person.
I feel like the show feels pretty validated after that, because we've been talking about how if any receiver has demanded more attention this year, more targets, it has been Brian Thomas. Not only is it at the point of the catch, Jake, but like after the catch, he's consistently gotten yak and made people miss all game. I don't care if they didn't call that second one a catch. I couldn't listen to the TV broadcast of Don Juan, so I still have no idea what exactly the explanation was. But, like, that is still a huge plus in his book. And if I'm Jayden Daniels, that is still why I will continue to give Brian Thomas the opportunity to outjump anyone.
I'm completely with you. I mean, he has shown that is an ability he has that is elite. Like, I truly believe that. I don't pass out like elite all the time. His high pointing the ball, making a play when it is one-on-one coverage is elite. That's the reason he was as highly rated as he was coming out of high school. So now, if you're the quarterback in Jayden Daniels, like, you don't have to be afraid. Hey, you've thrown the interception now, right? And that is growth. That is what BK was talking about. Hey, take a chance, throw an interception. Like in the Tennessee game, we saw him yelling, "It's one-on-one, throw the ball," right? And so he did that in this game. And if he can continue to do that, I think that's the most important thing you can carry over, is trusting your receivers, because offensively, I think that was the biggest issue that you had.
Yeah, and you finally, it still is a little mind-blowing how, and maybe this is partly a function of Florida being a bad defense, and obviously Florida, knowing Jayden's been scared to throw it man-to-man, was saying, okay, well, we'll go man, we'll spy you, like, we'll commit more to stopping you from beating us with our legs and dare you to try to take advantage, and Jayden Daniels did it. I guess I'm just still shocked at the volume of it. Yeah. Because it wasn't just once or twice. He was doing it consistently this game, and it's something that he was consistently not even doing once or twice previous to this. So, again, the growth in 2 weeks is really kind of makes your mind reel a bit from Daniels. We'll break down that play when we get back here on OTB. Jake has a little film breakdown that he wants to get into, and then I think there's still some guys I don't want to talk about. There's not much to be said here, so I'll mention here on the way out. Shout out to Damian Ramos with the sneaky big kick at the end of the game. That 47-yard field goal after a couple penalties push you back. Florida has a lot of momentum at this point. They've brought it back from down 21 to just down 7. If he misses that kick, Florida gets great field position with all the momentum in the world on their side, and it's kind of his first big kick of his career, and it's in the swamp, and he knocked it through no problem. Didn't really think twice about it. And I know that Damian Ramos, because of all the special teams woes, has kind of been largely ignored this year. But when we've seen him, he's been pretty damn good. And that was a huge kick on Saturday to seal that game. And although we're all like hanging on that last drive, it didn't really matter because you were up 10. Like you still had like a lot of comfortability, even though we've all been, scarred in one way or another by football, like every fan base has it at times. But yeah, Ramos, that was a huge kick.